Welcome you. We've got a really fascinating set of sources this time around sustainable fashion. Definitions, benefits, some really cool innovations, and the principles behind it all.
Yeah, it's a great mix, and our mission, as always, is to dig into these and pull out the really crucial stuff.
Exactly. Give you a clear picture of what sustainable fashion actually is and why why it matters so much now.
Consider this the quick read to getting up to speed without drowning in detail.
Right. We've got articles covering everything from like how textiles are made to the big ethical questions. So let's dive in. What's clear is sustainability isn't just a niche thing anymore. It's becoming central.
Absolutely. It's moving front and center in the fashion world.
So we're going to unpack the key ideas for you. Let's start right at the beginning. Sustainable textiles. What are we talking about?
Well, the sources define it pretty clearly. It's basically this big effort to minimize environmental damage and promote ethical practices across the whole life of a fabric.
Okay, so not just the material itself.
No, it's much broader. It's a different way of thinking. Eco-friendly methods are part of it. Organic farming, recycling, new manufacturing techniques to cut waste.
Got it. So it's holistic, raw materials, how it's made, what happens to it later.
Exactly. It considers the ecological footprint, the production conditions, the whole garment life cycle. Using renewable resources is key, but also how they're managed.
That makes sense. It's a system. The sources mention specific things like organic cotton, hemp, tencel, even recycled polyester from bottles.
Right. Those are good examples of materials with less harmful impacts. It shows that shift away from finite resources towards things we can replenish or reuse. Less strain, less waste.
Okay, that connects nicely to another huge theme, circular fashion. What's the core idea there?
Ah, yes, circularity. It's presented as totally fundamental. The main idea is keeping things in use, reuse, recycling, upcycling when a garment reaches the end of its typical life.
So keeping the values circulating.
Exactly. It's a strategy to tackle the fashion industry's massive waste problem, moving away from that old.
That take-make-dispose line.
Precisely. The linear model. Circularity is the opposite. Understanding the whole life cycle empowers everyone, consumers, designers, to make better choices.
How so?
Well, it helps build a closed-loop system, conserve resources, minimize waste. Maybe you think twice before tossing something, or if you're a designer, you think about the end game right from the start.
And the sources actually point this out as a big opportunity for designers, especially new ones.
Definitely. Embracing circular principles lets them create innovative, long-lasting stuff, things designed to be taken apart maybe, or easily repurposed.
It really forces a rethink, doesn't it? Designing for disassembly, for multiple lives, a less throwaway approach.
That's the goal. It changes how we create and how we consume.
Okay, moving along, ethical supply chains also get a lot of focus. This feels critical, given the industry's history sometimes.
Oh, absolutely vital. The sources really hammer home how ethical supply chains tackle those criticisms about labor practices, like worker exploitation in some areas. It's a recognition that sustainability isn't just environmental.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally about human rights, too.
So looking beyond the fabric's eco-impact to the people making it.
Exactly. The sources explain how supporting fair trade brands, demanding transparency, it all helps ensure fair treatment, living wages. It's fascinating how interconnected the environmental and social issues really are. Two sides of the same coin, basically.
And that connects to the slow fashion movement, which is also covered. Sounds like the antidote to fast fashion.
It really is. Slow fashion promotes a more deliberate way of consuming. Quality over quantity, building a real connection with your clothes.
So less about chasing trends, more about investing in pieces that last.
That's the core idea. And the sources link it directly to sustainable textiles. Investing in well-made, durable pieces from sustainable materials is key.
Makes sense.
And what's interesting is the focus on educating kids about this, building that mindfulness early on.
Because the fabric choice itself is just so fundamental to all of this, isn't it? Eco-friendly fabrics keep coming up.
Absolutely central. The sources say it again and again. Fabric choice is a cornerstone. Using organic, recycled, or innovative eco-fabrics is essential to cut the industry's impact. It's the foundation.
And the impact reduction comes from lower carbon footprints, better water use, fewer harmful chemicals.
Exactly. And linking back to circularity, these fabrics are often designed for durability, recyclability, upcyclability. It supports that longevity model over planned obsolescence.
And the ethical supply chain piece is woven in here too.
Tightly. Ethical sourcing often goes hand in hand with eco-friendly textiles. Fair wages, safe conditions, transparency. It all lines up with slow fashion's values, mindful consumption, quality, timeless style.
And again, the importance of teaching kids about these fabrics, why they matter.
Are crucial. Instilling that awareness young is key for the future.
Okay, now this is where it gets really exciting. The sources talk about some really innovative textile technologies reshaping things.
Yes, this is a fascinating area. Bio-based textiles are a big one. Fabrics from renewable stuff, plants, algae, even mycelium, mushrooms.
Mushroom leather. Seriously.
Yep. The cool thing isn't just the source, but their potential for a lower carbon footprint and their versatility. New textures, new possibilities, much greener.
Wow. And advancements in recycling waste textiles. That sounds critical for circularity.
Hugely critical. Old recycling often meant lower quality fibers. But now, chemical recycling can break down old textiles right back to their original components.
So, truly closing the loop. Old clothes become new fibers.
Exactly. High quality new fabrics from old ones that keeps resources circulating, cuts landfill waste dramatically. A real aha moment, like you said.
And then smart textiles, what's that about?
Integrating tech into the fabric, like temperature regulating fabrics or ones that change color.
Okay.
The interesting angle is potentially extending garment life, maybe less washing needed. Plus, it appeals to tech-savvy consumers wanting more function.
So, eco-conscious and innovative features. But the ethical supply chain still matters here.
Absolutely. Fair sourcing, ethical manufacturing are crucial as these techs scale up. Blockchain for traceability gets mentioned too.
Right.
And encouragingly, these innovations are also being looked at for kids' sustainable fashion. Organic materials, ethical production, upcycling.
Let's zoom in on two materials that get specific attention. Organic cotton and hemp. What makes organic cotton better?
Well, the sources stress it's grown without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. That's huge for ecosystems, soil health, and the farmer's well-being.
So the benefit starts right in the field, not just the end product.
Precisely. Less environmental impact overall, often better water use, no harmful chemical runoff, healthier soil. Plus, ethical benefits like fairer labor practices, safer conditions. It fits right into that slow fashion quality focus.
And it seems like younger consumers, Gen Z, kids, are driving demand for it.
That's a really sharp point. Their values are definitely shaping the market. Now, hemp, the sources painted is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I remember reading it grows super fast, needs minimal resources like water and pesticides.
Exactly. Rapid growth, low water needs, naturally pest resistant, low impact, good for soil biodiversity, and the fiber itself. Super strong, durable, perfect for slow fashion's long-lasting ideal.
And I think it mentioned natural antibacterial properties, good for kids' clothes.
Correct. Those health benefits are noted. And for circularity, it's biodegradable. Breaks down safely, supports recycling, upcycling, doesn't just sit in a landfill. And like organic cotton, often linked to ethical supply chains, fair trade for farmers.
So both seem like really strong contenders, especially suitable for kids' fashion too, based on the sources.
Definitely. Durability, comfort, safety from chemicals, and teaching those sustainable values early.
Okay, let's move to some cutting-edge stuff. Recycled materials and biofabrication. What's the big win with recycled materials?
It directly tackles the industry's waste problem. Using recycled polyester from bottles or reclaimed cotton reduces demand for virgin resources. Less extraction, less processing impact, making use of what's already there.
Taking waste and turning it back into something valuable.
Exactly. That's circular fashion in action, extending resource life cycles. But the sources warn, we still need ethical labor practices in the recycling supply chain itself. That needs attention.
Good point. It's not automatically ethical just because it's recycled. And how does it fit with slow fashion?
Perfectly. It encourages mindful consumption, valuing existing resources. Choosing recycled supports a more resource-efficient system, and it's great for sustainable kids' options, teaching those eco-values.
Now, biofabrication sounds futuristic. What is it?
It is pretty revolutionary. Using biological processes to grow textiles. Think lab-grown leather, mycelium materials, those mushrooms again, bacterial cellulose. Using living organisms to create fabrics.
Lab-grown leather, that could be huge, ethically and environmentally compared to traditional leather.
Potentially, yes. The sources mention mycelium leather being biodegradable, needing way less water and land. Fits slow fashion's ethical side, too, cruelty-free. Bacterial cellulose is mentioned as breathable, moisture-wicking, naturally dyeable. Opens up creative doors for designers.
Incredible. So unique properties, not just less harm. How does it fit the bigger picture?
Connects to circularity, potential to design inherently recyclable or compostable materials. And the sources see promise for sustainable kids' fashion too, bridging style and responsibility, plus early education on innovation.
We've touched on circular fashion a lot, but let's nail down its core principles. What drives this approach?
Okay, so the sources break it down. First, really understanding the entire life cycle. Raw materials, production, use, disposal.
Every single stage.
Right. And at each stage, there are challenges, but also opportunities, better material choices, ethical labor, responsible consumption, designing for recycling or upcycling at the end. It's a whole system view.
So seeing the full journey and finding intervention points. And recycling is obviously huge here.
Massive. Reduces landfill waste, cuts resource use, lowers greenhouse gases. The sources talk about closed-loop systems turning old textiles back into new fibers, not just lower-grade stuff. And upcycling, of course, transforming waste into something better.
And the ethical side of recycling still matters.
Yes, absolutely. Fair labor for workers sorting and processing is crucial. And building a culture of recycling, especially with kids, is key for long-term success.
Upcycling feels really creative, a way for people to connect personally.
It really is. Taking discarded stuff and making something new and valuable reduces need for virgin resources, sparks design innovation. It's circularity in action, seeing old clothes as resources.
Environmental and ethical benefits too.
Yep, lower carbon footprint, encourages conscious labor, fits perfectly with slow fashion, thoughtful consumption, quality, and teaching kids about it. Great way to spark creativity and responsibility.
The sources gave some great real-world examples, case studies of brands doing circularity well. Can you mention a few?
Sure. Patagonia's Worn Wear Repair, Reuse, Recycle is a classic. Eileen Fisher's Take-Back program for recycling or resale, plus their timeless designs. Reformation is noted for transparency and eco-practices. Mini Rodini for kids focuses on organic recycled materials and sustainability messaging. And Mud Jeans' leasing model is really interesting challenges. Ownership promotes recycling, shows the different ways it can work.
Okay, let's pivot back to ethical supply chains, the human side. The impact goes beyond just production.
Right, way beyond. Affects consumer perception, brand trust, the industry's overall sustainability cred. And there's that strong link between sustainable materials and fair labor that you really need both.
And could circular fashion actually create better jobs, like in repair or recycling?
That's the potential, yes.
Yeah.
More stable, skilled jobs in refurbishment, advanced recycling. Slow fashion, with its focus on thoughtful production and ethical sourcing, really pushes for better labor practices overall. And again, teaching kids about the human cost of clothes is vital.
Fair trade certifications come up as a way to ensure better conditions.
Yes, they're explained as a tool, especially for producers in developing countries, ensuring fair pay and safe conditions. Involves standards, audits. Often, fair trade brands also use more sustainable materials.
Right.
It aligns with slow fashion's quality and ethics focus. And it gives parents looking for ethical kids' clothes some reassurance.
So practically, supporting these ethical brands is how consumers can drive change.
Exactly. It creates a positive feedback loop. These brands often use sustainable materials, have circular programs like takebacks, prioritize fair labor and transparency. Supporting them reinforces slow fashion values. Especially important for kids' fashion choices, sends a message about the values we want for the future.
And transparency is the key to making informed choices, holding brands accountable.
Absolutely crucial. For trust, accountability. Lets you see if materials are genuinely eco-friendly, if garments are designed for circularity, if labor practices are fair. Essential for consumers who want to align with slow fashion's conscious choice ethos.
Let's dig into slow fashion itself a bit more. What's the core philosophy?
It's about having a conscious relationship with clothes. Quality over quantity. Using sustainable materials, ethical practices, making durable, timeless designs. Rejecting that fast, wasteful cycle for something more considered.
So it pulls together all the threads we've discussed.
Pretty much. It champions eco-textiles, advocates circular principles, stresses ethical supply chains, and significantly, these values are increasingly applied to kids' clothing too.
What are the benefits for consumers who adopt this?
Well, satisfaction from supporting responsible practices encourages critical thinking about garment life cycles, supports ethical businesses. Plus, you shift focus from collecting trends to building a quality, meaningful wardrobe. And it helps instill those eco-values in kids.
And the flip side, the sources detail fast fashion's negative impacts.
Yeah, they lay it out. Massive water use, pollution from pesticides and dyes, huge landfill waste, carbon emissions from production and transport. Slow fashion is presented as the solution, alongside educating the next generation.
So for someone wanting to shift to slow fashion, what are the practical steps?
Prioritize quality over quantity. Choose sustainable materials. Think about circularity. Can it be repurposed? Support ethical, transparent brands. Embrace the whole philosophy, longevity, timeless style. And apply these to kids' wardrobes, too.
Okay, let's focus specifically on sustainable fashion for kids. Why the growing attention here?
Because it's about investing in the future, right? The sources highlight eco-options like organic cotton, bamboo, hemp biodegradable, non-toxic, safer for sensitive skin.
And with kids growing so fast, circularity seems extra important.
Definitely. Recycling and upcycling become even more relevant. Some brands are even designing kids' clothes for disassembly. And teaching kids the value of reuse, passing clothes on, is a huge lesson.
Ethical supply chains are just as critical for kids' wear.
If not more so. Parents are increasingly aware of where clothes come from, supporting brands with fair labor practices, teaching kids ethical consumption. It's all part of it. Slow fashion applies too. Buy fewer, better quality items, mix and match, hand-me-downs, reduce waste.
And education's role in this.
Crucial. Integrating sustainability into kids' understanding of fashion. Hands-on stuff with materials, learning about recycling, investigating where clothes come from, promoting slow fashion values.
And parents are the key role models here.
Absolutely fundamental. Choosing sustainable materials, teaching recycling, discussing ethics, valuing quality over quantity. The sources even mention specific brands leading the way. Mini Rodini, Frugi, others combining style, ethics, and education.
Looking forward then, what trends are shaping the future of sustainable fashion?
Several key ones. Continued rise of sustainable materials and innovations. Growing importance of circular fashion, more takebacks, upcycling. Increased demand for ethical supply chain transparency, fair trade, slow fashion gaining more traction, and specific growth in sustainable kids fashion.
And technology's role in all this.
Huge facilitator. Advancements in eco-fabric production, digital tools like 3D knitting to cut waste, blockchain for transparency, tech supporting fair trade verification, e-commerce platforms promoting slow fashion, virtual fitting rooms reducing returns, and tech in sustainable kids fashion and education too.
Ultimately, though, it seems consumer awareness and responsibility are major drivers.
Yes, the sources really stress the power of individual choices. Understanding materials, participating in circularity, demanding ethical practices, embracing slow fashion, and especially educating the next generation.
And building a community around this seems important too. Collective action.
Exactly. Education, collaboration, advocacy. Sharing knowledge, joining swaps or repair workshops, supporting ethical brands, championing fair labor, living slow fashion principles, focusing on kids' sustainable fashion. It takes collective effort for real systemic change.
So to wrap it up for you, the listener, sustainable fashion isn't just one thing. It's this complex, dynamic movement covering materials, production, consumption, end of life, the whole journey.
Exactly. And the sources make it clear. Individual choices matter. And there's real momentum building towards a more responsible, more just fashion industry.
So here's something to think about. Based on this deep dive, what's maybe one single change in your own fashion habits that can make the biggest positive difference? Or what part of sustainable fashion are you most curious to explore more now?
That's a great question to ponder.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into such an important and evolving topic.